Jason Pike here for Gambler Lures, here to recap my first place finish, co-angler, FLW BFL on Lake Okeechobee on February 21st. Had an amazing day, 19 pounds, 2 ounces, and had a great boater. Rob Mistina really just was there with the net all day and put me on fish really throughout the day. And he had a pretty good day himself. Now, to start our day, we ran down south, pretty much spent the majority of our morning and the afternoon right there around Bird Island. And anybody that knows Bird Island, it's a great mix of vegetation. You got hydrilla, peppergrass, eelgrass, and right now it's just sparse enough where you can throw a lot of different baits. And it's not quite matted up like it is in the summer. So once we got down there, we were boat 143, so we did get down there a little bit late. And I will say we had a lot of company. There's a lot of boats in the area. And the one thing I noticed was everybody was throwing a lot of moving baits. I think because of the cold front the night before, a lot of people went to spinner baits, swim jigs, even swim baits like Big Easy. And I threw those for the most part, maybe that first, half hour we were there, and I really wasn't getting any quality bites. So at that point, I decided to make a change. I wanted a little more subtle bait, something that got a little bit deeper in the water column, but just subtle enough to, to spark that bite. Now, I made the switch to a Gambler Lures Fat Ace in Copperfield. And what I did was, it's a little bit different. I inserted a glass rattle into the back of my bait. And what I used is this little metal rod here, and it's hollow inside. And what it does is it allows you to drive that into the plastic, kind of corkscrew it, and pull out some plastic with you. And that makes a nice little chamber for your rattle. Because the one thing everybody knows with rattles is you tend to lose a lot and very quickly. So creating that nice little chamber within the plastic really makes a big difference, allows you to hold on to that rattle a lot longer. And also, the Gambler Fat Ace is nice and fat. And you can see right here, this has a rattle in it. You can't even really tell. So again, I think that made a huge difference, because what I was doing is I was casting into the wind, because I casted in all directions, really wasn't getting any bites, but only when I cast into the wind. It's just the way that the fish were set up that day. And whenever I cast into that wind, I would let it fall and then just slowly drag it or pop it right off of those weeds. So I'd pop it from one hole to the next, leave a little slack in the line, and sometimes it would get hit so hard that your entire line would just jump and you knew he was there. Reel up that slack and just set that hook. And it really worked out for me, because by 10:30, 11 a.m., I had about 13, 14 pounds in the box. Now, at that point, the bite really started slowing down right there around midday, and we decided to make a change. So we ran down south, a little further south, towards the shoal and towards Cochran's Pass and that area, and we found some clear water with lily pads and had a couple really nice blow-ups, but really just couldn't land the fish. And as we were down south, we had noticed that east wind really picked up, and with it, it brought a ton of muddy water, just completely muddied up our area, and that bite shut down at that point. So being that we had so much success earlier in our morning, we decided to go back to Bird Island. So with about an hour and a half, we rolled in, and at that point, a lot of boats started moving out because they had to get back to weigh-in. Luckily, we had a nice late time, and at that point, I really couldn't throw the Fat Ace as much because the wind had picked up so much. I really couldn't get it to fall right, and with the wind blowing it all around, it just was a hard bait to work in those conditions. So I figured if everybody else is doing it, I'll pick up a spinnerbait. And that's when I started throwing a Riot Baits spinnerbait in White Knight. But what I was doing is, for a trailer, I used a Gambler Super Stud in Copperfield, and I would say second cast, I caught a 2-pounder, was able to call out one of my dinks, and then probably with about a half hour left in my day, I popped a 5-pound 11-ounce pig. And I mean, that was my kicker. As soon as we netted that, I looked at my boater and I said, I got this locked up. I think I just shut the door on this tournament. I'm telling you, I just feel like I got enough to win. So at that point, I wanted to get out of there. And I will tell you, it was a very nerve-wracking ride back to the ramp. Got into weigh-ins, and at that point, 17 pounds was leading for co-angler, and threw her in the bin, and 19 pounds, 2 ounces later, wound up coming away with the win. So just an amazing day. Again, want to thank my boater, Rob Mestina, and going to thank my amazing sponsors, Gambler Lures. They really make the best baits in the business. It's really not an accident that a lot of the wins down here in the BFL all come on Gambler Lures. And also want to thank iMovers Auto Transportation. They've really just been a great support for me throughout my tournament fishing. And that's my recap.